Can I bring the committee to order, please? Thank you. A warm welcome to those attending and to our viewers watching live on the Council YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. My name is Councillor Higgins. I'm the chairman of this committee. The details of business will be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are in the room and on the bottom of the live broadcast. For those presenting in the room and intend to speak, please note that you will be filmed and your statements you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anybody speaking today that your voice will only be audible online when you switch on the microphone. Fire alarms, we're not expecting any fire alarms, so if one alarm does go off, please follow officers outside of the building. If you have mobiles or tablets, can you please switch them off? Obviously, councillors on the committee will have laptops and stuff to do their work today. Also, attendees. Before we move to the agenda, I'd like to introduce councillors present. Councillor Steve Tuckwell, my Vice Chairman, Councillor Farah Juhubara, Councillor Adam Bennett, substitute for Councillor Gohill, welcome, thank you. Councillor Mand, welcome. Councillor Sansapuri and Councillor Singh. Planning officers tonight is Ros Johnson, Planning Senior Service Manager, Fiona Ray, Nisha Burnham, Principal Planning Officer, Alan Tilley, our Transport and Aviation Team Manager, and welcome to our new Shira Arashad, our new Legal Advisor. Welcome to the committee. And Neil Faze from Democratic Service, who makes sure that I do everything right. And so far, it's going okay. Okay, so first of all, we'll have apologies for absence. Neil?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So you already mentioned Councillor Bennett is present as Councillor Gohill substitute.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bennett. Declaration of interest matters before this meeting, anybody? No? Okay. Can we receive the minutes agreed, the minutes of the last meeting? Agreed? Okay, lovely. Matters notified in advance or urgent, there is none. Confirm that this meeting is in public and there's no private items. Okay. Before we go on and start the actual meeting, there's two things. Neil Fraze, who's sitting right next to me, this will be his last meeting with us. He is now moving to nicer climates further south of England, and I wish him all the best and thank you for your service to Hillingdon Council. And I'll say that on behalf of all the committee. And the other thing is that I'm going to be trying to do this meeting without any paper. So I'm trying to do everything on the committee today. So, councillors, please bear with me. This is an experiment, and hopefully it will work. If it doesn't, well, we'll move on quite quickly. So we'll go straight to the first item, which is Neyland Court. And Nisha, I believe this is yours. You can just bear with us for a minute. Technical problems, and I thought it was going to be me. But there you go. No pressure, Nisha, now.
Item 6, Neyland Court. The application proposes the removal of the existing mansard roof construction of an additional 2 stories, along with front extensions and external alterations to create an additional 8 residential units with associated amenity space. The proposal is being presented as a car-free development for the proposed 8 one-bedroom flats. Here is the site location plan, bird's eye view for context. As can be seen from the constraints plan, the site falls adjacent to 2 heritage assets, Ruislip Village Conservation Area highlighted in orange and Midcroft Ruislip Area of Special Local Character highlighted in purple. Although not shown on the constraints plan, the site is designated within Ruislip Town Centre. The existing block plan. Here is a photograph of the front elevation of the application building, which contains 12 flats. Directly to the east is number 19, a chalet style bungalow. Pembroke House is located to the west of the application site and is a former office building that has been converted into flats. To the rear of the application building is an area of soft landscaping which serves as communal amenity space for the residents of Neyland Court. Here is a photograph of the car park to the rear of the building, a retrospective plan application to retain that carport, if I just point to it. So that structure here was refused on the 19th of August 2022. The carport is currently being investigated by the Council's Enforcement Department. This photo shows 2 buildings to the rear of Pembroke House, which is the adjoining site that is also owned by the applicant. Existing elevations, existing floor plans, proposed front elevation, proposed rear elevation, proposed side east elevation, which would face the number 19 Pembroke Road, which is the chalet style bungalow you saw earlier. The proposed side west elevation, which would face towards Pembroke House, the office building that's been converted into flats. Here is the existing and proposed street scene elevation drawing. It should be noted that this drawing doesn't fully reflect the street scene on Pembroke Road, because directly to the east, as shown in the photos, there's a bungalow which isn't shown on the drawings, and there are a row of bungalows from number 19 to number 35 Pembroke Road, and that's all towards the east of Pembroke Road. Proposed ground floor plan, the communal hallways, if I just point to them, go back one, so can't get the red dot. Okay, if you just look where the stairs are, you'll see that the hallway will be extended, and that would be the front extensions, but no internal alterations are being proposed to the existing flats on ground floor level, first floor level, or second floor. So this is the first level of the new additional story, and then that would have 4 one-bedroom flats, and then this is the 4th floor plan, so that's the second additional story, and that also would contain 4 one-bedroom flats. As can be seen by the dotted blue line, the footprint of the proposed 2 additional stories would project beyond the front and rear walls of the existing flats of Neyland Court. As a result, the existing occupiers of the habitable rooms set beneath the proposed 2 additional stories would experience a sense of enclosure, overbearing impact, and loss of light. Proposed roof plan, and here is the proposed site plan. In terms of resident consultation, the Council has received 13 objections from residents, an objection from Ruislip Residents Association, an objection from 2 ward councillors, and a petition against the application with 23 signatories. These objections primarily concern the impact on neighbouring residential amenity and harm to the character appearance of the area. As detailed in Section 2 of the committee report, this application is recommended for refusal on 9 grounds. These are as follows. If you just bear with me, I'm going to go back to the front elevation drawing here. So, ground for refusal number 1. The proposed development, by reason of its prominent location, size, scale, massing, height, design, and choice of external finishes, would result in an incongruous form of overdevelopment that would fail to harmonise with the character and architectural composition of the surrounding properties, appearing as a visually dominant and bulky form of development which would be detrimental to the character, appearance, and visual amenity of the street scene and the setting of the adjoining Ruislip Village Conservation Area and Midcroft Ruislip Area of Special Local Character. The proposal therefore conflicts with policies BE1 and HE1 of the Hillingdon Local Plan, and policies DMHB1, DMHB4, DMHB5, 11, 12 of the Hillingdon Local Plan Part 2, policies HC1, D3 and D4 of the London Plan, and the National Planning Policy Framework. So, second ground for refusal, the proposed development, by reason of its built footprint, projecting beyond the front and rear habitable room windows of the existing building, would cause harm to the living conditions of the existing occupiers at Neyland Court in terms of loss of light, loss of outlook, sense of enclosure, overbearing impact. The proposal would therefore be contrary to policy BE1 of the Hillingdon Local Plan, policies DMHB11 of the Hillingdon Local Plan Part 2, and the MPPF. I'm going to move back to the existing block plan because the proposed site plan doesn't show the properties to the rear of the site on Brickwall Lane. Just give me a moment. Here. Okay. So, number 3, the proposed development, by reason of its siting, size, scale, bulk, massing and height, would cause harm to the residential amenities of the neighbouring occupiers at Pembroke House, number 19 Pembroke Road, incorrectly labelled as number 21 on the block plan, and numbers 4, 6, 6A and 8 Brickwall Lane, if I can try to point to them, so these properties to the rear here. With numbers 6A and 8 Brickwall Lane incorrectly labelled as 8 and 10A on the block plan in terms of loss of outlook, loss of light, overshadowing, sense of enclosure and overbearing impact. The proposal would therefore be contrary to policy BE1 of the Hillingdon Local Plan, policy DMHB11 of the Hillingdon Local Plan Part 2 and the MPPF. Okay, so for the proposed refuse store, which I'll try my best to point to it, it's in the bottom right hand corner here, and then the cycle store, which is here. So the proposed refuse store and long stay cycle store, by virtue of their proximity to the ground floor habitable room windows of the existing flat at Neyland Court, would cause harm to the residential amenities enjoyed by these neighbouring occupiers in terms of loss of outlook, loss of privacy, noise and disturbance. The proposal would therefore be contrary to policy BE1 of the Hillingdon Local Plan Part 1, policy DMHB11 of the Hillingdon Local Plan Part 2 and the MPPF. Insufficient evidence has been ground for refusal number 5, insufficient evidence has been provided to demonstrate that adequate refuse and recycling facilities can be provided for the existing and future occupiers of the proposed development without adversely impacting upon neighbouring residential amenity, on-site parking provision or highway safety. This issue is further exacerbated by the constrained nature of the site. The proposal would therefore conflict with policy DMHB11 of the Hillingdon Local Plan Part 2 and the MPPF. Number 6, insufficient evidence has been provided to demonstrate that secure, sheltered and accessible long-stay cycle store parking spaces can be provided for future occupiers of the proposed development without adversely impacting on the external amenity space provision at the site, on-site parking provision and highway safety. This issue is further exacerbated by the constrained nature of the site. The proposal would therefore fail to facilitate and encourage cycling as a sustainable mode of transport, contrary to policy DMT5 of the Hillingdon Local Plan and policy T5 of the London Plan and the MPPF. 7. The proposed development fails to provide any 3 or more bedroom family-size units. Robust justification has not been provided to demonstrate that the provision of family-size units would be unsuitable or unviable. The proposal would therefore not provide a suitable mix of housing to support sustainable, inclusive and mixed communities, contrary to policy DMH2 of the Hillingdon Local Plan Part 2, policy H10 of the London Plan and the MPPF. 8. The proposed development, by reason of its inadequate size, quality and functionality of the external amenity space, would result in substandard forms of residential accommodation to the detriment of existing and future occupiers at the site. The proposal therefore conflicts with policy DMHB18 of the Hillingdon Local Plan Part 2, policy D6 of the London Plan and the MPPF. Just to elaborate on this ground for refusal, Table 5.3 of the Hillingdon Local Plan states that one bedroom flat should be provided with at least 20 square metres of private amenity space. The proposed 8 one-bedroom flats would therefore require 160 square metres above the existing community space that's there at the moment. There is a small typo in the committee report in section 7.09, which states that the requirement is 100 square metres, but it's 160 as clarified. The proposed flats would have balconies. If I just go back to the floor, the proposed, so these rectangles here are the balconies at the front. So the proposed flats would have balconies measuring between 6 to 7 square metres approximately, which falls significantly below the minimum private amenity space standard set out in table 5.3. Furthermore, the proposed balconies would measure 1.4 metres deep, thereby failing to meet the minimum 1.5 square metre depth prescribed in policy DMHB 18 of the Hillingdon local plan. And then, because there isn't enough space provided by the balconies, there's concerns that there's going to be reliance on the existing communal amenity space to the rear of the site. If I go to the block plan again, so this space here represents the communal amenity space. The plan that you can see states that it's 174.2 square metres, but when measured it's actually 123 square metres. The area covered by the cycle store and this undercroft area here are not usable spaces, so those spaces have been discounted from the measurements. And then the last ground for refusal is the proposal fails to demonstrate how the development would achieve the highest standards of fire safety in regards to its design in incorporating appropriate features which reduce the risk to life in the event of a fire, its construction methods, means of escape, strategy of evacuation, and providing suitable access and equipment for firefighting appropriate for the size and residential nature of the development. The proposal would therefore be contrary to policies D5 and D11 of the London Plan and the MPPF. Thank you. For those reasons, it's recommended the application is refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha. I'm going to hand over now to Neil. He's got a lot of reading to do. So you're going to start with the petitioner, then the applicant agent, and then ward councillors. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first statement is a written submission from the lead petitioner objecting to the application. We wish to strongly object to this planning application for the following reasons. The proposed development would fail to appear as a well-integrated development along Pembroke Road. An increase in the height of the proposed development would be highly visible. Due to its location, size, scale, massing, height and design, it would result in overdevelopment. It would appear as visually dominant and bulky, which would be detrimental to the character of the local area, which is on the fringe of the conservation area. The proposed development would cause unacceptable harm to the living conditions of the existing occupiers at Neyland Court, Pembroke House, number 19 Pembroke Road, and numbers 4, 6, 6A and 8 Brickwall Lane, due to its impact on residential amenities in terms of loss of outlook, loss of light, overshadowing, sense of enclosure and overbearing impact. In our opinion, there is insufficient external amenity space to serve the size and number of existing and proposed dwellings at the site. If this application is to be approved, it will result in poor living conditions for both existing and future occupants. The planning application proposes to build balconies which will overhang by 1.5 metres above the existing front windows, and also to move the front doors southwards. Both additions will result in blocking light in habitable rooms, causing loss of outlook, loss of light, overshadowing, overbearing impact and sense of enclosure for the existing residents of Neyland Court. The planning application proposes to create the refuse recycling store at the front, outside a bedroom window, and against the boundary with number 19 Pembroke Road. This will result in a loss of outlook, loss of privacy, noise and disturbance. The planning application proposes to create a long-stay cycle store in the rear garden within 1.9 metres from the nearest habitable room windows, which will result in a loss of privacy, create noise and disturbance for the existing occupiers at Neyland Court. Please note that the planning officer's report says that insufficient evidence has been provided to demonstrate that adequate refuse and recycling facilities can be provided for the existing and future occupiers of the proposed development without adversely impacting upon the external amenity space. The plans also indicate that the habitable rooms, kitchen and living room, will be above existing bedrooms. This is unacceptable, as this will create extra noise and inconvenience to existing bedrooms in Neyland Court. We would like to bring to everyone's attention that, as indicated in the planning officer's report, the proposal fails to demonstrate how this planning application would achieve the highest standards of fire safety in regard to its design and incorporating appropriate features which reduce the risk of life in the event of a fire, including construction methods, means of escape, strategy of evacuation, and providing suitable access and equipment for firefighting appropriate for the size and residential nature of the development. It's also worth mentioning that the proposed development would exceed the council's maximum density level of units per hectare by 51%, We think that this ratio should be taken into consideration during the assessment process because, as we can see, there are more and more flats being built on Pembroke Road in recent years. It should be noted that the applicant again submitted inaccurate site location plans, including several discrepancies which are outlined in the officer's report. Having brought the above objections to your attention, we hope that the committee's decision will agree with the planning officer and refuse permission for the development. We then have a statement from the agent on behalf of the applicant. This statement has been prepared by Harding Rose Architects in support of the above planning application, which predominantly takes precedence from Pembroke House located to the west. Anslip UK Limited own the freehold of Pembroke House, as well as the freehold to Nayland Court. Similarly to Pembroke House, the proposal for Nayland Court would create an additional 2 stories and external alterations to create a property which is more in keeping and reflective of the character of the local area. This form of development would ordinarily be to apply for permission under Class A new dwelling houses on detached blocks of flats. However, given the proximity to RAF Northolt, this site would not qualify for this type of application. Nevertheless, the development has still been designed with the requirements of Class A taken into consideration. The proposal would not add any family-sized units, but these also do not exist at Pembroke House. Family-sized units are also preferred to be located on the ground floor, but as this is an existing property, this would not be viable. All proposed units would meet the minimum internal areas set out in the London Plan 2021. The officer report states that the development would cause unacceptable harm to living conditions of the existing occupiers. This is not understood to be the case. The existing dwellings are to be left existing, and the proposed 2 stories would not cause any negative impact on the current occupiers in terms of outlook, privacy or daylight. The engineers advise to locate 10 vertical steel columns placed between existing apartments to cause the least amount of visual obstruction. The works can be undertaken whilst the existing tenants are in residence, similarly to Pembroke House. The proposal respects the rights of the existing tenants, and works will be carried out during normal working hours as provided by health and safety regulations of the London Borough of Hillingdon. In regard to amenity space, the proposal has been designed to retain the same amount of amenity that currently exists. In addition to this, the proposed flats are to be provided with private amenity space in the form of balconies. The balconies will be supported by a series of columns and will have a depth of 1.5 metres. Full-height walls will be constructed between adjoining balconies to ensure there is no overlooking or lack of privacy between balconies. No balconies are proposed to the rear in order to avoid any overlooking or loss of privacy to neighbouring rear amenity spaces. This therefore increases the overall amenity space for the development without taking any away from the current tenants. Furthermore, the location of the site is within close proximity to public open space such as Shenley Park, 0.5 miles, and Churchfield Gardens, 0.4 miles. It is therefore considered that there is ample amenity both on and off-site for all existing and future occupiers. The officer's report states that the proposed alterations to the building would be an incongruous form of overdevelopment that would fail to harmonise with the character and architectural composition of the area. The proposal has been designed to take precedence from the Pembroke House. The additional stories will add 5.3 metres to the existing building height, but will remain lower than Pembroke House by 1.5 metres. This allows the proposed development to sit comfortably within the street scene and still retain the step-down effect from Pembroke House to the properties to the east. The proposed architectural style of the building takes precedence from Pembroke House, and the removal of the mansard roof and updated facade creates an improved street scene which is considered to have a positive impact on the character of the area. It is proposed to respray existing UPVC windows in an anthracite grey and clad the 2 stairwell cores in Trespa grey panels or similar, with the 2 additional floors being finished in an off-white render. These materials also take precedence from nearby properties such as Corinthian Court and the Quadrant. Although the planning officer has raised concerns over refuse from cycle stores, the Highways Authority are satisfied that the proposal complies with planning policies for the above and that the site would be able to achieve a car-free form of development. For the reasons detailed in the statement, it is believed this proposal is in keeping and proportionate to both the application site and the context of the wider area, and provide the existing and future occupiers with ample amenity and good quality living conditions. We then have 2 statements from the ward councillors, the first from Councillor Peter Smallwood. Mr Chairman, fellow councillors, I am writing to support officer recommendations to refuse the proposed development at Nayland Court. This is a clear-cut case, but I would like to gently remind the committee of the following. It is completely out of character with the surrounding architecture. It is bulky and would stand out like a sore thumb. I would also note that it is not in character to our adjoining conservation area. The application has no regard for multiple neighbouring properties and would impact their light, privacy and standard of living. The applicant has even managed to potentially make the standard of living worse for those currently occupying Nayland Court. There is greatly exaggerated turn and circle to access the garage to the rear of Nayland Court, which bears no relation when you view it on site. The metaphor, not enough room to swing a cat, springs to mind. The bin stores and cycle racks are literally outside people's bedroom windows. Blythe is crying out for affordable family homes. The applicant seems to have total disregard for this and offers very little evidence to justify supporting only multiple smaller units, a point members can refer to in Refusal Point 7. Whilst I had not picked this up until reading officer's reason for refusal, the fact there is a potential fire risk should concern the committee greatly. This is referred to in Refusal Point 9. I note that this has been recommended to be refused on multiple occasions in various forms. As a fairly new councillor, I follow planning in my ward closely. This, for me, even as a new member, is a very clear case for refusal. I would urge the committee to inquire if the applicant has ever visited the site or considered why it has been refused on multiple other occasions. I'm sure you'll reach a sensible conclusion. And finally, we have a statement from Ward Councillor Philip Hawthorne. Since I've already raised extensive objections to the case officer Nisha Burnham, I'll try and be succinct, and at least because Councillor Smallwood has also sent in comments to be read to committee this evening. I note and fully support the case officer recommendations and commend them to committee members. However, I do not want to be seen to make any assumptions about what the committee will decide on this application, so wanted to reiterate the strength of local feeling against these proposals, which are wholly at odds with the Hillingdon local plan policies, not least BE1, because of its location, height, massing and density. It would be incongruous in its setting, and much to the detriment of the street scene in Pembroke Road and Brickwall Lane. Having met residents on site on several occasions, I am acutely aware of the completely unacceptable impact on residential amenity in ways set out in the report, including the loss of garden and amenity space. The plans as set out by the applicant are full of inaccuracies and distortions which do not stand up to scrutiny, including the vehicle turning arrangements to the rear, which as set out would be unworkable in practice, as well as the bin and cycle store arrangements, nor can I see any sign of disabled access arrangements. As a local planning authority, we should be pushing for the highest possible standards of built development. These proposals at this location leave much to be desired, and I therefore urge the committee to support the officer recommendations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's quite a lot of information to be taken in there. So, anyway, who's going to take me away first? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman. I do kind of agree with the officer's recommendation to refuse, but there was just a couple of questions I had on some of the refusals and just their strength and validity. So refusal number 1, clearly there is a really beautiful property on one side of this development, but I just question whether, so we're saying here that it is incongruous form of overdevelopment that would fail to harmonise with the character and architectural composition of the surrounding properties, appearing as a visually dominant and bulky form of development which would be detrimental to the character, appearance and visual amenity of the street scene. It's next to, on the other side, a much larger, taller, bulkier office block turned residential area. So I don't know whether we need to word in there actually that it, clearly it is applicable to part of the street scene, but not all. The second point was just on refusal reason number 7. So just around the lack of 3 or more family-sized units. Would we expect in sort of a town quite close to the town centre to have 3 or 4 bedroom flats in a flat development?
Thank you for your questions. Who's going to take that?
Thanks, Councillor. They were helpful questions. So starting with your first question relating to refusal reason 1, which relates to character and design. I fully understand your point. I think because sort of as we move down the street, we kind of move away from the centre into the more residential zone, and the adjacent property is significantly lower on the right-hand side. I am confident that it's a strong reason for refusal, and I think we've got enough in the wording there that we can sort of deal with that, and it's explained in the report. So I'm happy with it myself. Turning to your second question, so this was relating to the refusal in respect of the family units. So you make a very valid point. We might accept that in certain circumstances family units aren't necessarily appropriate, but officers felt that we didn't have a reasonable justification put forward as part of this application, and we wanted to fully capture that. So it might be, for example, at appeal or in a resubmission, they might come forward with some convincing argument, which potentially we could consider, but we didn't feel that had been provided, so we wanted to capture that. Thanks.
That was answered for you. Councillor Tuckwell, you indicated.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good report, I think. Very thorough set of refusals. Take the point around family homes, so we'll see how that plays out further down the line. But I've been doing this a few years now, and for a relatively small development, I can't remember seeing 9 refusal reasons, which I think goes to show the nature of the development, and it's how it's so below our policies. The fact that we can apply 9 very solid reasons for refusal, and I think on that basis I've got nothing further to add other than to move officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I like to echo what Councillor Tugwell just said, and bearing in mind there's lack of mixed housing, lack of adequate fire safety, lack of enough amenity space. I think there's enough reasons in here for us to refuse this and agree with the officer's recommendation, so I would like to second it.
Thank you, officers, for a very thorough report. I just wanted to echo what the written statements from the councillors mentioned, and Councillor Chubbard mentioned that as well, is the refusal number 9, which is about the fire safety. I think that's of grave concern in terms of not providing adequate provisions in place for emergency safety. So I just wanted to echo that, and I totally agree with the recommendations of refusal from the officers.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so we're proposing second. Can I have a show of hands and votes to go for against this application? It's a full house for refusal. Okay, thank you very much.
I just want to say to me that is refused.
That is refused. Okay, see. Anyway, now let's go on to item 7. Nisha, is this yours as well? Yeah.
Item 7, 51 Pembroke Road. The application proposes a 2-storey side and rear extension and conversion of the roof space to habitable use to include 4 rear and 3 front roof lights to allow the conversion of the dwelling house into 2 bedrooms and 2 one-bedroom self-contained flats with associated parking and amenity space. This current application is a resubmission of an identical scheme which was previously approved under application reference ending in 2019/2659. This previous permission expired yesterday. So this is the site location plan. You're looking at the red circle, which is the application site. The blue line represents land owned by the applicant as well. The site is located on the northern side of Pembroke Road and comprises a 2-storey detached house on a spacious plot set back from the highway. As can be seen from the constraints plan, the site is not located within the conservation area or area of special local character. Here are the existing and proposed floor plans and elevations. I'm going to point to where the proposed extension is. So this is the proposed 2-storey side/rear extension. On ground floor level, you have 2 one-bedroom flats. So the bedroom here, the open plan kitchen, living room here, the bedroom here for the second flat, open plan kitchen, living room area. And then on the first floor and loft space, you have 2 two-bedroom flats. The proposal would provide 6 on-site car parking spaces. 2 car parking spaces would be provided to each 2-bedroom flat, and 1 car parking space each would be provided to the ground floor 1-bedroom flats. This is the front elevation of the application building, the rear elevation, the side elevation which faces number 49 Pembroke Road, the other side elevation facing number 53 Pembroke Road. The application property is to my right. I'll just point to it here. The proposed extension would be in this gap here, and then you have the neighbouring property at number 49 to my left. This photo was taken from the rear garden of the application site, looking towards the rear of number 49. So this photo is taken, so this is the application property, and then that's number 53. And then this photo is taken from the rear garden of the application site facing towards the neighbouring property at number 53. Okay, so in terms of resident consultation, I'm just going to go back to the proposed plans. The Council has received 1 representation in support of the application and 3 objections. Also, a petition against the application with 127 signatories was received, with the grounds for opposition primarily concerning overdevelopment of the site, harm to neighbouring residential amenity, and parking and congestion issues. As previously mentioned, this current proposal is identical to a previous scheme approved in 2019. It is therefore considered that the proposal would not cause harm to the character and appearance of the host dwelling or the surrounding area, or adversely impact on the living conditions of neighbouring occupiers. The proposed development would provide future occupiers with a high standard of internal and external living condition accommodation. The application has been reviewed by the Council's Highways Department, who are satisfied that the proposal would not discernibly exacerbate congestion or parking stress and would not raise any measurable highway safety concerns. As noted in the addendum, an additional representation has been received from Wyslett Residents Association, which challenges whether the proposal would comply with policy DMH4 of the Hillingdon local plan, and that's criterion 1 within that policy, which states that no more than 10% of the properties should be redeveloped or converted into flats. I would like to summarise the officer response provided in the addendum. So 10 dwellings have been demolished out of 64 original houses on Pembroke Road to facilitate the redevelopment of sites into flats. This equates to 15.6%. The proposed scheme relating to number 51 Pembroke Road, the application site, would marginally increase this threshold to 17.2%. The proposal would therefore not be fully compliant with policy DMH4 of the Hillingdon local plan in respect to criterion 1. However, it should be noted that there are material considerations relating to the site which should be given due regard. As stated in the committee report and mentioned throughout this presentation, planning permission has already been granted to convert the property into flats in 2019. It is considered that the policy context has not so materially changed since the granting of this previous permission as to now warrant a different decision on the development proposal. In reaching this view, officers are mindful that the non-compliance with policy DMH4 criterion 1 relates to a numerical/technical consideration, and that the 10% threshold has already been breached without the development proposed. In the absence of any demonstrable planning harm, e.g. harm to the character and appearance of the area or on neighbouring residents' living conditions, the benefits of the scheme, i.e. the net increase of 3 new residential units, are considered to outweigh the identified technical policy conflict. As such, officers are of the view that a refusal of planning permission on the grounds of non-compliance with policy DMH4 could not be substantiated in the event of a planning appeal. The officer recommendation to grant planning permission, subject to conditions, remains as set out in section 2 of the committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha. That's very thorough. Over to you again, Neil. You seem to be reading out lots of stuff tonight, but sorry about that.
So, Chairman, we actually have the lead petitioner for this item. Would you like to come forward?
Oh.
Have her 5 minutes.
I'll do it again anyway.
And the agent is also here.
Okay.
And then a statement.
Okay, fine.
Hello, first of all, my name's Fiona McAuliffe. I reside at number 49 Pembroke Road. First of all, we've never been privy, and we want to revoke the planning application since 2019. I was the one that also started a petition since that had to be handed in by the 29th of July, and I got 657 signatures opposing this ludicrous development. There's going to be substantial loss of lighting. It's overshadowing a natural daylight. I'm also registered disabled. I've got physical and hidden disabilities. I'm also an artist, so it's essential that I have access to light is crucial to my work and also my well-being and my parents' well-being. I've also exhibited at Venice Biennale, Tate Modern, V&A and everything. We've got 5 side windows adjacent to number 51 and 1 glass door. They would destroy the lighting in the kitchen, breakfast room, through lounge, study, downstairs toilet and throughout the hallway. In addition, upstairs bathroom would be very darker, the toilet, the 2 bedrooms and the landing. It's already overlooking, with all these roof terrace, there'll be overlooking and loss of privacy. Since the current building has been rented out and tenanted, there already is an increase in noise. It's a historic, sorry, I'm not really good. And already we're seeing tenants peering through our house, and that never happened. A cycling shed would be intrusive, as well as the roof terrace. I'm concerned about the adequacy of parking and loading. It will be a safety hazard. There's already about 4 cars that are used there on a regular basis. There's no room to manoeuvre. The additional noise, and it's Pembroke Road is heavily congested. It's been opposite the vets, which is heavily used, and sometimes the residents use their car park for additional cars. There's highway safety. There's also road rage incidents, vehicles driving up on footpaths, vans regularly delivering items. And the bus drivers, I frequently use the buses, and the bus drivers have complained about the congestion on the road. Plus, there's numerous websites which monitor the pollution level. Pembroke Road is at the 98%. It's breaching and it's exceeding the threshold. It's causing lung cancer, asthma, respiratory problems to a number of neighbours and myself. I've got respiratory issues since the overdevelopment in the area and the destruction of many houses being converted into blocks of flats. The noise and disturbance due to children, pets and frequent visitors. The building hours that they're proposing, I think, if 6 days a week is excessive and does not factor in the early arrival times and finishing times, which could probably overrun. Not happy with a rubbish bin put in the front garden, as that could be used for storage. The police are frequently coming to the area because of the increase of crime. There's going to be sorry, I'm all over the place. I only received this a few days ago, and it's very rushed job. Since 2008, 2009. Mr. Ramsey has been culling down a number of trees, and he's destroyed, wiped away an apple orchard. There's also hedgerows have disappeared, sycamore trees, holly bushes, small evergreen shrubs, to name a few. There's a huge amount.
I'm afraid I have to bring you to a close.
Oh, sorry.
Take you 5 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. Before you get down, it's fine. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for speaking.
Sorry,
it's never an
rambly,
easy thing to do, so...
it's very rushed. It's only a few days' notice.
That's fine. I just wanted to check, from obviously as the sort of petitioner speaking, do you reside next door to this property?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've lived there for over 40 years.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Thank you. You may step down. Turn the mic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have Mr. McLeod. You'd like to take your seat. Again, the traffic light system. Green, you can talk. Amber means you've got a minute left, and red, I will stop you as I did before. Okay? Whenever you're ready. As soon as you press the button, we'll start the timer.
Chair, members of the committee, I think we have to remember several things here. Firstly, this is a planning committee, and it's planning matters that have to be decided. As stated in the very thorough and comprehensive report in front of you, not only does this comply fully with all of the current planning policies, both national and local, in front of you. But it has also been previously approved by your council following, at that time, no objections. So I think we have to focus in on the planning matters and also the fact that this has had a previous consent, and that, as explained by the officers, none of the policies have materially changed that would justify a reason for refusal. I would just like to pick up on one point of fact that the objector made. There are no proposals for roof terraces at this development, just to clarify that. Other than that, Chairman, I've got nothing else to say.
Thank you very much. Do any councillors have any questions? No? Thank you. You may take your seat. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a statement to be read out by Neil from Councillor Hawthorne.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is a statement from Ward Councillor Philip Hawthorne. Until May of this year, I've not represented the area of Ruislip, which includes 51 Pembroke Road, but I have become aware of consternation locally about this planning application, which is before you this evening with a recommendation for approval. I was very surprised to discover that the principle of this flatted development in this stretch of Pembroke Road, characterised by townhouses, has been established in a 2019 planning consent. As a result, I've had the sad duty of informing local residents there is little, if any, prospect of this application being refused. However, I would invite the committee to consider whether the rule of a maximum of 10% flatted development, which has been established via past planning inspector decisions in adjoining King's End, applies in Pembroke Road. If that is the case, I'd ask whether subsequent flatted development, which has been constructed following the 2019 consent, including Corinthian Court, actually takes the totality of such development in Pembroke Road over 10% and makes a further consent at this location contrary to policy. Thank you for listening, and I'll leave you to your deliberations.
Thank you very much, Neil. Okay, so before we get started, I'm just going to ask Ros to come in and just lay out what the situation is on this application, okay?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I thought it would be helpful if I just picked up on some of the points that have come through the submissions. So firstly, starting with the petitionist comments, and thank you, petitioner, it was very helpful to sort of hear those, and I can appreciate that it's an emotive decision for yourself. So first of all, just to pick up on the residential amenity comments that were made. So I would say that officers have given careful consideration to the impact on residential amenity. It is, as you saw in the plan, quite a spacious plot. And we really don't feel that there are any grounds that we could sustain a appeal in terms of the impact on amenity. We do note that there are some windows in the side elevation, but given the nature and use of those windows, we wouldn't be able to sustain a refusal of planning permission on those grounds. And in terms of privacy, so the applicant or agent did pick up that there are no roof terraces proposed as part of this. I did wonder perhaps whether the petitioner was referring to the roof lights. But we wouldn't be able to sustain a refusal on those because there are obviously sort of rear windows as existing, and it would have a sort of similar relationship in terms of privacy. Just moving on to touch on the highway matter, it's understood that obviously residents have concerns about congestion. Just wanted to point out that this proposal does include 6 off-street parking spaces, which is actually does exceed the usual standard, but given the concerns that residents have in terms of congestion, we've considered that the over-provision is acceptable and it would help to address those concerns. Just moving down the list that I jotted down, so there were some concerns raised about air quality and disruption in terms of the construction management process. So I'd just like to draw members' attention to the planning conditions. So we have proposed a construction management plan condition, that's condition number 4. So that would impose controls and it would require the applicant to submit details to set out how they intend to kind of minimise the disruption and pollution that would occur through construction phase. Shadowing. Okay, so Chairman's picked up in terms of the concerns that were raised in terms of loss of light and overshadowing. As it was mentioned in the report, there are some side-facing windows However, due to the nature of those windows, so we consider those to be secondary or non-habitable room windows, we wouldn't be able to sustain a refusal of planning permission on those grounds. And you can see from the site plan there, in terms of the extent of the building, it's sort of roughly in line with the neighbouring property to the left, and it would respect the 45-degree guideline, so that there would not be sustainable grounds to refuse in that sense. I think the final thing I just wanted to pick up on were the comments from Councillor Hawthorne in respect of the 10% rule. So I think Nisha has really clarified our position and she read out what was in the addendum, but just wanted to confirm that Councillor Hawthorne had referred to the Corinthian Court development. So I did have a look at the planning history for this. And essentially, when the council took the decision in 2019 to grant the previous planning permission, the situation would have been the same. So the Corinthian Court development, there was a series of planning permissions over a period of time. So essentially, the situation with the 10% rule is the same now. So there's not a material change in that respect. So I don't feel that we could defend a refusal if we were to now refuse on that basis alone.
Thank you, Rosa. That was just to make all members aware, and obviously we've got to remember that this application has been approved before and nothing's really changed. So, who's going to go first? Councillor Chubadar, Councillor Mann, Councillor Tuckwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Rose, for clarifying most of the points which were raised. However, I still am not sure whether you addressed the additional noise and the created by the new residents and the car usage and the additional noise created by their visitors.
Yeah, if I can just come back on that, thank you. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the additional noise, so obviously the site would stay in a sort of fully residential use, albeit there'll be additional units. Overall, that would be a sort of fairly typical arrangement in a residential area. So realistically, we couldn't sustain a refusal on that ground. And it, as I've sort of pointed out, it is quite a large plot. So it would sort of fit fairly comfortably in terms of, you know, spreading across the plot and use of the amenity space.
Councillor Mann.
I think I was just resting my hand.
Oh wait, sorry, I beg your pardon. Councillor Tuckwell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, officers, for the report. I mean, this is a tough one because our hands are virtually tied on this one, given that it has been approved. I'm not entirely sure I like the scheme. You know, it is a house which we are losing a family dwelling, and we're not getting family dwellings back. But I do have to respect the fact that it has been already determined, and we've pretty much got nowhere to go on this one. Yeah, parking, electric charging points are all in place. I hear what the petitioner said about loss of outlook, but then I've also just heard from Ross what that was. That was quite concerning about that, but that seems to have been picked up. And I think we're just in a situation where, you know, we're going to have to swallow hard and think, you know, we have got nowhere to go on this. The risk of an appeal is, well, it would win an appeal, hands down, and likely to be awarded costs as well for an unreasonable refusal, given that it's already been approved. So I think on that basis, I don't think we've got anywhere else to go, and I'd be happy to move officers' recommendation. Well, not happy, but I think we've got nowhere else to go but to move officers' recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckwell. Anybody else? Yeah, Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
So your microphone.
Thank you, Chair, and officers. I think you give the all detailed parking, also give the answer about the noise and pollution. So I'm second.
Okay, so we're proposed in second. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour of the officer's recommendation? That's unanimous and it's been approved. There you go, got it right. Okay, so we go on to item 8, and Fiona, it's over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Moving to 18 Ivor Lane, where planning permission is sought for the demolition of the existing building and the erection of a new building containing 5 flats. So just turning to the location plan, you can see it's on the northern side of Ivor Lane there. And the constraints plan helpfully show you where the Cowley Lock conservation area is directly opposite, and it lies within a controlled parking zone, which is relevant to one of the reasons for refusal we've put to you. This is the location plan, and probably one of the more helpful slides, the existing and proposed site plan. Here you can see the kind of scale and depth and bulk and massing of the building when compared to the existing footprint and the neighbouring residents. And this is a key concern for us as officers, as detailed in the report, because we believe that this bulk and massing has a detrimental impact on the character and appearance of the area and the conservation area adjacent, because it is, we believe, oversized. So there are 5 reasons for a refusal, but I'll just go through the plans and try and point those out as we go. So this is the existing and proposed roof plan for the bungalow, and those are those existing elevations. The new building would obviously be a lot deeper, up to 17.7 metres deep overall. And what we're also concerned about, as well as the character and appearance of that, is the relationship on this neighbour, number 16. And there's a few reasons for that that are noted in the report, including the side windows at first floor level, one shown here, and ground floor level, shown here, because these serve kitchens. There is a second point of outlook, but it's on almost a different room because of the layout. So we're concerned about that impact because they would need to be clear glazed. We're concerned about this terrace to the rear and the impact and potential overlooking to the neighbour, and just the close proximity of such a large building. You can see that 45-degree line shown, which the building doesn't extend into. However, in order to have a terrace there, any potential screening or anything like that would go within that 45-degree line. So this all kind of, the sum of all the parts result in harm to that neighbour. I'll show you on photographs as we move on why we aren't concerned about the relationship on the other side, number 20, even though this is actually a single-storey bungalow. I'll just turn again, sorry, to this image because the housing mix is relevant here. The building on site at the moment is a 2-bedroom unit, but we've talked in the previous applications about the importance of providing 3-bed accommodation, and in this instance we don't have a 3-bed being proposed, and again with no justification as to why that's not possible. Turning to the second floor plan and roof plan, we don't have quite enough detail about the head height within this space, and it's important that we have enough of that floor area hitting a height of 2.3 metres in order to be an acceptable form of accommodation. So that's something they could potentially overcome, but we don't have enough information in this application as explained in the report. These are the proposed elevations, and you can see here the kind of stepped frontage that tries to break up the bulk, but it is a very, very big building in relation to its neighbours in terms of height, in terms of width, and most notably in terms of its depth. And we're concerned about the side frontage. So you've got these 2 little doors to the side, and you know, one of them serves 4 units, one of them turns the one at the ground floor level. Turning now to the bird's eye view, you can see that relationship to the neighbours and how that overall depth will be realised within the street scene. And you can see here the relationship to number 16, as it would extend very deep into that plot when you use the number 20 as a marker. Some more bird's eye images to give you that view and see that relationship. So just briefly turning to number 20 and why we think that relationship is actually okay, even though it is single storey. That building is quite a lot deeper than the existing building, so the building line is comparable, and even over a height of two storeys with rooms in the roof, there aren't any windows on that building that would be compromised. So these are just some street scene images. I think this one is really helpful to see how big that building would appear in context and how visible that side elevation would be. Some more street scene images for you. This is the existing front of the building. And this is the only window on number 20 that faces into the site, so it's an obscure glazed window, and there are no other windows of concern. That's why we haven't included a reason on 20 either. And then that's just a view looking across to number 16 at the front. And some more site photos for you of the rear garden and the rear of the building. And this is number 16, and we've explained our concerns in relation to that. Thank you for your time, Chairman, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Fiona. Forgive me for this. I'm going to try and pronounce it. Is it Mr. Yepsvid? Yeah. Would you like to speak, sir? No? Okay, fine. Would you like the gentleman to speak on your behalf? It's fine? Okay, thank you. We don't have the agent here either. Are you the agent?
No.
If you'd like to speak, please, you're more than welcome. Please come through. Sorry, just indicate, when you turn the mic, just indicate who you are. No,
when you do the microphone.
When you do the microphone. There you go.
Got it. I live at number 14 Iowa Lane, which is obviously adjoined to the number 16. There'd be no side windows overlooking us, but we would lose all the privacy at number 14, which is 2 doors away. You said about the patio at the back there, that would be straight looking down onto my back garden. Don't know whether that's a good idea or not, to be honest with you. But also, if you know Iowa Lane, the parking and the traffic there is horrendous. It looks good in the picture. Parking restrictions are there from 5 at night to 9 in the morning. Rush hour starts about 6:30, 7:15. What you see in the picture now, it's just traffic. Trying to get out the top of Iowa Lane, it goes back to the Humpback Bridge, and it starts again in the evening about 4 to 4:30, maybe a little bit earlier with the school run. It's the same thing. I mean, when they proposed the parking bays there, I suggested double yellow lines, because I'm one of the people that's actually given their gardens up the front to park 2 vehicles in the front garden, and that's one of my biggest quibs. Is going to be, one, I'm overlooked, being 2 doors away, and it's the parking. The parking is a hell of a problem. It really is a problem. I know we've got width restrictions on the bridge now, 7.5 tonne, but you're still getting lorries down there. You can't stop the lorries. Can't say anymore. I've done my bit.
Thank you very much. Just no, one second. Does anyone any more questions? No? No. You can take your seat. Thank you. Yeah. That's fine, mate. Thank you. Okay, we have a statement from the councillor. Neil, would you like to read that out?
Yeah, last one of the evening, just a brief statement from Councillor Keith Burrows to say that I am unable to attend the planning committee this evening, but I would appreciate if the chairman will allow you to provide, in my absence, my full support for the residents in their objections to this application, and I fully support the refusal reasons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That photograph is quite good actually, because those houses look quite big, but they're semi-detached houses. Sorry, semi-detached. That's right. Yeah, they're all semis down there. So, and what they're trying to do is put 2 semis on a single plot. But anyway, we'll move on. So, yes, Councillor Chobodar. Councillor Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've actually listened carefully to everything which was said about the application and read the officer's report thoroughly. I can see that this new proposal fails to integrate with the appearance and character of the local area. It doesn't have is lack of parking, and is oversized. It has a huge impact on the neighboring properties, and all these have already actually been mentioned in the report. And for all these reasons, I would like to propose the refusal suggested by the officers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman. So I just wanted to pick up on the petitioner's point about parking. I'm guessing that the 3 spaces to the 5 units complies, and that's the reason why it's not down as a refusal point. But I just wanted to check that.
Over to you. No, you're absolutely right. Well done.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chairman, that would be a sufficient parking allowance for this particular scheme, particularly because there is a CPZ, so we could restrict the occupiers of that property having permits through a legal agreement. So we had that option, but without it, that's why we have the reason for refusal. Thank you.
There you go. Do you want to second that, Councillor Bennett?
I will second Councillor Chubidow.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Tuckwell, you want to indicate it?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to pick up, there's a statement on page 94 which says, in relation to internal amenity provision, and the bottom line says it's for the proposal would fail to provide satisfactory living conditions for future residents, contrary to aforementioned policies. Is that not another refusal reason?
Through you, Chairman, Councillor Tuckwell has picked up on an important point, and we have reason for refusal number 5, I believe, which, but it's kind of capturing all with that. So we have the applicant has failed to demonstrate with section drawings about that head height issue, but also the ground floor flat at the front of the building would have poor privacy. I should have pointed this out, and I'm sorry I didn't in the presentation, but we have bedrooms right at the front of this property that will be, there'll be this communal parking area right outside. They're going to have to traipse up and down to get to their amenity space and their access. And so whilst standing sort of alone, it seemed sensible to include them together as a reason, and it's all the sum of the parts realising a very contrived design. So that was our conclusion. Thank you.
If officers are happy, I'm happy.
Good. That's what I want to hear. Right, so we're proposed and seconded. Can I have an indication of all those in favour of the officer's recommendation? That is unanimous, and that application is refused. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Can you just please stay stationary while we turn off the live feed, and thanks to those people who have been watching. Thank you.